everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about grilling or not grilling, and today it's going to be about not grilling and pulling out one of my favorites, the cast iron skillet. I know we're approaching the 4th of July and it's so much fun to get the grills out and barbecue and do all that, and most of us have had our barbecues out and have already started that process. But today, for example, where I live, it's only about 88 degrees, and that certainly seems like, I'm going to have to turn this down a little, that certainly seems like that would be a beautiful temperature to be out grilling. Perfect, sun shining, not too windy, but evidently the humidity is up so high that if you go outside it feels like 100. So no thank you. Don't want to stand over a grill that gets to about 400, 500 degrees when it's already 100 degrees outside. I'll skip it. I'm going to stay inside. I have been marinating a sirloin steak that's been in my refrigerator since yesterday, and I need to get it cooked, so I'm going to do one of those grillings on my stove, and I'm going to use my favorite, a cast iron skillet. I love cast iron skillet pans. You know, when you get used to cooking in them, they're easy. They're beautiful pans to cook in, and I love them. When you first get a cast iron skillet, there are instructions on how to well season it, and to keep it well seasoned, you need to follow a good regimen to clean your pans. I use hot, soapy water. I never scour it, because every time you use your pan, you're re-seasoning it, and that's really nice. So what I do is I wash it in hot sudsy water. I get everything off of it, and then I put it right on my gas burner and I dry it. I dry the pan completely from the bottom all the way into the center, and then I use grapeseed oil. I put some grapeseed oil on a paper towel and I rub it really good on the inside, and just turn the burner on and just let the burner cook the oil and dry the pan completely. When I'm finished, I just take my paper towel and I just very quickly just go over it one more time, just to make sure that I don't have any oil just hanging around, because you know oil can get rancid. And then I'll just take a little bit and hit my handle in the top, and that's it, and then it's ready for cooking the next time. So today I used my cast iron skillet, and I have several. Now I have one that's about 2 times this size, and it does take my both hands and arms to carry it when I'm going to use it, and I use it when I'm frying chicken, and we don't do it very often, but when we do, that's the pan that I use. And I also have a big kettle, and the kettle is what I use to make my chilies and my stews, and hopefully in the fall and winter I'll get to share that and those recipes with you. But today I thought, you know, this is a great topic to talk about, especially if you had plans on grilling. And you know, a sirloin steak can be tough, so you do have to do a little bit to tenderize it, and you have to cook it right in order to get a nice tender steak. So what I did is I used my favorite seasoning that I use on steaks, and that's Lowry seasoned salt. It has no MSG. I think the melding of seasonings in here is superior for steaks, even hamburgers. But what I do is I score my meat, and that just means to make diagonal cuts in it. I don't go all the way through. I just do it very lightly. I just want the seasoning mix and the marinade to just penetrate through. And what I do is I get a cookie sheet, a small cookie sheet, or it just depends the size of how many steaks I'm doing, and score my meat. And then I sprinkle the Lowry seasoned salt on the top. I rub it in really good, and I add a little bit of water to the cookie sheet. I don't douse the meat in water. I just add some water just so it's enough to just barely cover the very bottom of the steaks, and then I turn them over and I re-season the top, and then I rub that in really good. And then I cover it really good, put it in the refrigerator and let it marinate. The longer the better. This time I let my steaks marinate for all day yesterday in the afternoon, all night until today. And then what you do when you're ready is I remove the meat from the refrigerator and I just let it set at air temperature for about 15 minutes. I get my pan on the burner and I put this burner on piping hot, scorching hot, nothing in the pan, just the burner on, and get this pan super hot. So make sure you have a good pot holder, handle holder, that you can secure onto your pan, because this pan is going to be super hot. And then you're ready to take your steaks and place them into the pan. Now, when you do that, use a tong so that you can get a good grip on the steak, and lay the steak farthest away from you down into the pan. Don't try to move it. Don't try to rearrange it. Just lay it down where it's going to go. And I usually do, for a pan this size, depending on the size, I had 2 long steaks that were about, I would say, a good inch to inch and a half high, and I did those 2 at the same time. Once I put them in the pan, well, I did add, after the pan was piping hot, I did add a couple of teaspoons of oil. Now, the oil that I use, I know there's oils out there that can't tolerate high cooking temperatures. I use olive oil. I love olive oil. I love the flavor of it. I use a good quality olive oil, and that's what I prefer to use. So I use the olive oil, and I don't put it into the pan until the pan is really hot, and then I just kind of grab the pan with that pot holder and kind of twist it a little so that that oil goes everywhere. Then I lay my steaks in. Once my steaks are cooking, I don't touch them. I've seasoned both sides of the steaks, but at this point, since they've been marinating in their marinade, throughout all day yesterday and last night, I just re-seasoned just a little bit on the top. Now, I do set a timer, and I turn those steaks at about 2.5 minutes. I pick them up with a tong, I flip them over on each side, and I let them sear again. You don't want to keep picking your steaks up and trying to move them. If you try to move them before that 2 minutes, I can tell you they're going to stick and make a mess. So the first time you lay them in the pan, at least 2.5 minutes, let them get good and seared. And then you pick them up and turn them over again. And you do the same thing for about another 2.5 minutes. And what I like to do at that point is, and so what you do when you're ready to turn them for the first time, after the 2.5 minutes, you're going to have a really nice crust on the bottom. It sears really well if you don't touch them. You pick them up with your tongs and you flip them over. At this point, you're going to add about 3 tablespoons of butter. Let the butter melt down, and I like to add minced up garlic at this point. So you have to understand, you're not throwing the garlic in the very beginning when your pan is piping, smoking hot, because once you add your meat to the pan, it's going to cool that temperature down of the pan, and you're cooking it at 2.5 minutes. So now that pan and that oil, the temp has come down somewhat in it. So when you go to flip it over and you're adding your cold butter, then that's a safe time to add your minced garlic. You can use fresh garlic if that's what you want, but I just use minced garlic, throw it in there, stir it around. I mean, it's still sizzling, it's still hot, but it's not like scorching hot where it's going to burn your garlic. So another 2.5 minutes now on the second side. After that 2.5 minutes, or 2 minutes, so time is between 4 and 5 minutes now, I reflip the steaks over again. And each time you do that, I just take what the drippings are in the pan with the oil and the butter and from the steak's own juices, and I just coat the top. And I do that the whole time that I'm cooking it. So now you have to decide how you want it cooked. Rare, medium, well done. And there's a trick to figuring out how, when a steak is good, like touching the center piece, touching the center area between your thumb, and if it's soft when your hand is closed, then that's rare, and if you let the grip up, or if it's really tight, then that's medium well, or well, and all that. I don't know, because this to me, it's all the same. So I go by time. I literally go by time, and for me, about 1.5 inch steak that has that thickness to it, pretty much at 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes, it's done. It's just the way we like it. And that comes out to about, I would say, a medium, maybe medium well. I don't care for rare. Sometimes I'll have a medium or just, like medium rare on a salad or something, but for the most part, I kind of like mine well. So when I monitor it through time, 2 minutes when you first put it into that scorching hot pan, flip it over another 2.5 minutes, flip it over again. Then between that 6-7 minute mark, I'm done. I turn the burner off. Once I turn the burner off, I don't take it off of the burner itself, the pan. I just cover it and I let it set for 10 minutes. Now, if you're more in line to just wanting it rare and you tap the center and it's soft and you want it rare, then at 5 minutes, turn it off and take it off the burner, because that pan is so hot that steak is going to continue to cook. And I'm going to insert a picture here so that you can see that the way I cooked it today was about medium. I prefer it more on the medium side, and you can see I just cut half of it up so I could just show you in display. It was tender, it sliced up so beautifully, even thin, and it was delicious. Now, sirloin can be a very tough piece of meat, a tough piece of steak to tenderize, and it does depend on the cut, but also how you cook it. And I believe searing it at high temperatures, not messing around with it, not poking it while it's cooking, because you lose all those juices, is really key. So after you're done cooking it and you put the foil over it, your burner's off, at this point, and you have to play with it a little. If you really like it medium or on the medium rare, then you're going to want to just cover it with foil and remove the pan from the hot burner. And it's also key to let the steak sit for at least 10 minutes, because if you cut into it before that, you lose all those succulent juices. So let the steak sit for about 10 minutes and then plate it up. Then it's ready to go. And we served ours today with sweet potatoes and baked potatoes. It was everybody's individual choice as to what they wanted, and corn on the cob that I had taken off of the corn that was left over, and I just kind of made a little sort of creamed it up a little bit, and we had a salad on the side and some marinated artichokes and mushrooms, and it was delicious. It was a simple, easy meal. It's great to cook with cast iron, and if you ever make cornbread and you heat this on the burner first and then pour your cornbread mixture into the pan, this, when it's really hot, gives you your cornbread a beautiful bottom crust, gorgeous, with that little bit of crunch, and stick it in the oven. It'll be the best cornbread you've ever made in your life. So I just wanted to share that with you and talk to you a little bit about, if you can't get out and grill, this is a great alternative, and it really makes your steaks super delicious. So until next time, be kind, be humble, and age gracefully. Bye.